through first the winners and losers. And one key area, that is the Ministry of Education, has been awarded at least over 600 billion. That is a plus from the previous estimate of 500 billion. Now, out of this money awarded, or rather funds awarded to Ministry of Education, 28.2 billion, that is will go to the TVETs. Then we have the development of, let's say, the vocational training and education and training will receive 27.9 billion, beg your pardon. Youth and training will receive, that is youth training and development will receive 55.6 million. Then higher education goes, has been awarded 128.6 billion. Now, higher education, that is university education, has been awarded 127.4 billion. This is just to, this was one of the key, promises that President William Ruto had highlighted in the new model, just to revamp and streamline education sector. Well, another key issue that, or another key, element that has been paid focus on, we have the primary education that has been awarded 32.3 billion. Then secondary education has been awarded 103 billion. Then teachers and resource management has been awarded the Lion secondary education transition and all that. Now, another ministry, and this is Ministry of Health, has been awarded 141.1 billion. This is a reduction from the previous, which was 148 billion. Out of this money awarded, of course, national and referral and specialized services will receive 63.5 billion. Then curative and reproductive health will receive 21 billion. And health and research and innovation, 4.9 billion. Public health will receive 24.6 billion. Another win, that is road and transport, has been allocated 310 billion just to, come up with to finish the stalls project that had been started by the former regime, and of course to drum up the bottom-up economic agenda as far as infrastructure and all that is concerned. Another key component that has been been on the list, judiciary has been allocated 22 billion. Well, these are some of the estimate and areas that has been awarded, and even some being reduced. Now, joining me in the discussion is my guest, who is ready in the studio, and I will just beam you into the heart of this discussion. Well, Abraham, thank you so much for making time to speak to KUTV. Well, this budget, has it met your expectation?
Thank you very much, Evan. So I think for me, from where I sit, I have more questions than even thinking about the expectations that whether it's met my expectations. And I say that because a lot of the conversations and the expectations that we had as Kenyans, based on the conversations that we've had, the president and statements that the president has been making, have been more of reducing expenditure. For example, when one of his first speeches was talking about reducing the budget by 300 billion, but we are seeing a total opposite of that. In fact, we're having the largest budget ever. So I think in terms of meeting expectations, it's really gone on the other side, where we're seeing more and more expenditure at the cost of an increasing cost of living, and we are seeing there's so much more that we would have expected in terms of cushioning people, but we are seeing the budget getting bigger and bigger by the day. Yeah.
All right. Well, this budget, and of course, whose budget is this? Is it a hustler's budget, or what is happening?
That's a good question. So we know the current government, the Kenya Kwanza regime under the president, His Excellency President William Ruto, ran on a hustlers narrative, where they wanted to see the hustlers will be prioritized in this regime. But a lot of the things that we are seeing is really, it begs the question whether indeed this is a hustler's budget, because we are seeing, as I said, increasing the backdrop of increasing cost of living, more Kenyans going into poverty due to other challenges, such as we know COVID really brought a lot of people into the poverty bracket. But we are seeing most of the lower income earners are still being taxed heavily. So we are seeing a lot more questions in terms of, really, is this a hustler's budget? But from where I sit, I think we can say it's a budget that does not ultimately put into factor in the needs and aspirations of the hustlers.
All right. Yeah. Well, this year's budget is, one of yet another biggest, 3.6 trillion. Are we living beyond our means, or we are just setting our priorities right?
I think, looking at the history that we've had, I think we are living beyond our means, and that can clearly, we've seen certain things that are clear indications that we are living outside our means. If you look back at about 2 or 3 months ago, when we had state officers or public servants talking about their salaries are not coming through. There's a delay in salaries. Why? Right. Because we have to pay debt. If you look at the Council of Governors coming out to say that we have not received our disbursements for the last maybe 2-3 months, 4 months. And those are just symptoms showing you that indeed there is a problem. And the problem comes from the public debt that we have accumulated as a country. And so where we are paying for as we know right now, it's 63% of our ordinary revenues going towards paying debt. So it means that for every 100 shillings we're collecting, 63 shillings is going to pay debt. That's before you even think about paying any salaries or any other expenditure for the country. Right. So as it is, we're living beyond our means, and government really needs to cut down on expenditure in order to be able to start pulling back into the right path.
All right. Well, when you speak, I see a man who reads a mixed reaction, but this one, the government has to operate, and that's one, because it's arguably we have high cost of living. The country is grappling with the effect of COVID-19, and all that has been, to be put into factor. Even when the Minister for, of course, Finance was reading the budget, one of the things that actually he mentioned it is the war between Russia and Ukraine that has some way affected how the economy operates, and all this has been factored in. But in order to avert this, President, of course, the Kenya Kwanza government has come up with, some might call it, ways of, revamping the economy. They call it the bottom-up transformative agenda. And to some, it has come at the backdrop of many resistance. Some say we are chewing, beyond our own means. We are biting more than we can chew. Well, from your own perspective as an expert, do you think this, budget is sustainable, or we are just sinking even deeper?
I think, as you say it, we are sinking deeper, and unless we take drastic measures in terms of looking at our expenditure, then we are likely to continue spiraling down that path. As I said, our public debt is accumulating, it's getting higher, and the more we have towards paying public debt, it means the less we have for service delivery. So it means we won't have enough to pay teachers, to pay salaries, to provide healthcare services. And when the country is not able to do that, then, if citizens fall sick, we are going to have challenges. And we've seen it going around where governments are not able to provide, the government is not able to provide. So a case of NHIF, which many citizens rely on, and the government is propping that to use it as for the universal health coverage, we're still seeing challenges around that area. So we are saying, if we are not able to focus on our basic services, then it's basic social services, then I think that's where there's going to be a really big challenge around that.
All right. Well, you've spoken about our debt, and when you look at, the estimate for, or rather the funds that have been allocated to at least cater for the debt that we have, that is 1.6 trillion. If you ask me, that's a huge amount of money, almost half of 3.6 trillion. Well, I want to draw your attention to the last financial year, of course, we had where the budget was 3.3 trillion. The government had estimated that its in-source revenue 2.5 trillion. That is the targeted. So far, they had collected 1.5, and the deficit was around 1 trillion. Mm-hmm. Well, if you go by this trajectory, and of course, this budget that we have that is arguably so far the largest, do you think we can, get far, or still we'll have to go, and even the government will be forced to even tax Kenyans more in order to fund this budget?
Okay, so yes, of course, as we talk about the budget, the expenditure side of it, we definitely have to talk about the revenue side of it.
All right.
And as you rightfully say, yes, we have seen over the years, the government has been over-projecting their revenues. And we've seen almost for every financial year, there's a shortfall when it comes to raising revenues. But also a trend that we have noticed is that within the financial years, we've seen some of the targets being revised downwards. And so sometimes we'll hear that, we have overachieved our targets. But if you look at it in totality from the approved budget and the targets that are purported to have been met, then we see there's a lot in terms of reductions. Therefore, the question is government really projecting their revenues accurately for them to be able to meet these targets? So for us, and I think the targets have been largely unrealistic, given that we are over projecting. But even as you look at the amount of money that has been collected over the periods, then we are seeing we are having less and less. We are collecting less than what we are targeting to collect, and that means that our deficit is larger. And if we're not able to meet our revenue targets, then it means our deficit will still grow further within the year. And the only option we have is to borrow more. So we still keep adding more onto that public debt kitty, and we see more money will be paid going towards repayment of this debt. So I think there's really, government needs to be more realistic in terms of their projection, and they have all the data to be able to help them do that accurately.
Well, you talk about, revenue collection, and actually there is something just to aid the operation. They have been allocated funds to at least aid the operation as far as collecting revenue is concerned. Now, when we talk about collecting revenue, we have seen recently President had to some extent, try to some sort, putting the house in order, and even putting rogue agents, or rather officers, on notice that, we need to collect revenue and we need to do it in the right manner. Now we have the budget, and of course this problem still exists. It has been there, and we don't know about the future, but if it goes by this, then we should see the same trajectory, same trend, and probably it will be just one song too many from the Kenya Revenue Authorities as far as revenue collection is concerned. But now I want to get your take on, as we talk about the accountability, how is the best way to approach this so that Kenyans can get value for their money, so that the government can raise the revenues, they can hit their target. By the way, this time around they have targeted 2.8 trillion. Yeah. So that's how it is. But how will they manage this? That is the big question.
Okay, so I think accountability is one of the biggest factors that would help to, first of all, build the confidence of Kenyans. And before we even talk about accountability, we need to talk about the transparency side of it.
All right.
So for me to hold you accountable on something, there has to be certain things that we've agreed upon.
Right.
So as citizens, we expect to pay taxes, and therefore we expect the government to offer certain services. And those are some of the things that we are seeing through the budget. And one may argue that they may not necessarily respond to my aspirations and my needs, but that is the budget that is there. And therefore, and we're seeing debt is also one of the issues that is being repaid from the taxes that we pay. So the first question is really around transparency. So how transparent is government when it comes to providing this budget information? We must applaud the government in terms of increasing transparency, in terms of we have seen the level of discussion that has gone into the finance bill conversations and the budget estimates conversations, because people and the citizens actually have these documents and they can read through them and ask the hard questions, which is really good. And for us to be able to hold the government accountable, then it's on the basis of this. But in addition to citizens just being able to raise their voice, we also have independent offices that have been established by law to ensure that there is accountability. One is, say, like the Office of the Control of Budget. So they have a very big responsibility. And before any public money is released, they have to give the nod. So it's for these independent offices to be given the opportunity or to work independently without any sort of interference. We have the Office of the Auditor General. They do very good reports indicating this is what is ailing us. But the challenge is that we see some issues being raised over and over again, but nothing seems to be done around it. So the question we ask is, what are some of the consequences that can be put in place to ensure that this government is held accountable? And finally, one among the others is the Parliament, National Assembly, which is naturally, we have our representatives there, and we expect them to hold government accountable. So they have a responsibility to represent us, but also ask the executive the tough questions in terms of, this is how far you're going. In terms of implementation, then we need to know how far have you implemented, and if there are any challenges and deviations, then how do you ensure that these are taken care of within the financial year.
All right. Yeah. Well, even as we wind up this discussion, I want to get your thought on the key priority areas that have been given, the lion's share. Remember, I've just take you through some figures. For example, the Ministry of Education, we have seen a reduction in the Ministry of Health. Then we have transport there. Where do you think more emphasis should have been put on this budget? Which sector do you think should have been allocated more? And are you contented with the allocation so far?
So I think it's an interesting question in terms of the priorities. So of course, as you rightfully say, education has like the lion's share, and I think something that most of the students would be happy about is what I saw you had shared about HELB. So HELB is one of the areas that many students had really complained about, but we are seeing there's a significant increase in that. So that should actually be good. Areas of concern, health as well, reductions, but we still see health being one of the sectors that has a lot of allocations. But the big question really and the concern is on, if you see the spending lines of this health sector budget, it's largely on functions that are supposed to be held by the counties. So that's also one of the area of concern where we are asking, so what's going to happen? Will counties also put in money in some of these areas? But quickly to where I think there should have been more allocations is on social protection. So we know right now the high cost of living is affecting Kenyans, and according to the National Drought Management Authority, about 10% of Kenyans still need food assistance. That's 4.4 million Kenyans. Therefore, it means if we have that huge number, then we need to we should have seen more going into social protection. And also the poverty levels are from the poverty report that was released by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics about 2-3 weeks ago. It's also showing that a third of the population are actually poor. So what is government doing to ensure that this entire population, or as in their words, these hustlers, are well cushioned to be able to even meet their day-to-day expenses or even food? Because if the definition of this a third who are poor, then it means they may not necessarily be able to afford meals and just basic services.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Abraham Ucheng, International Budget Partner Kenya, Program Officer, Advocacy and Outreach. Your time always appreciated. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be diving into more stories, including sports news. See you in a bit.
Badala ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi wale hawana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tutajiamini, tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili.
Bila uoga, watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi, wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi, hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Technology, science, innovation, ICT and research. These are the ingredients upon which the solutions to the 21st century problems are founded. In a world that is rapidly changing, it's all hands on deck to ensure a balance in all fields of life. Women, young and old, are also in the front line, breaking the glass ceiling, becoming thought leaders in the larger tech space. Not forgetting other societies marginalized. And when the tech Avengers come together, we inch closer to a much safer, efficient, and sustainable world. What we view as a norm in today's advanced world was just an idea, and for nostalgic reasons, we trace back to the iconic days to bring you the retro tech. On Tech Innovation Show, we encapsulate all the pillars of the fourth industrial revolution, decoded in a language, all for one for all. Every Monday at 8:30 as we push the mantra, keep learning something new each and every day. Only on KUTV, a new experience.
Right, welcome back, and let's continue. The National Health Insurance Fund Authority has cancelled 7 billion tender aimed to offer insurance cover to the National Youth Service trainee and civil servants in the next financial year. Speaking at the NHIF headquarters, the acting chief executive officer, Samson Kihoro, pointed out that there were irregularities in the tender application process and has promised to call the tender application process committee to charge to fix the loopholes to ensure transparency and credibility. Zeno Diambo with more details.
Bidders showed their apprehensions at the National Health Insurance Fund headquarters after the National Health Insurance Fund offered a cancellation of tenders worth 7 billion Kenya shillings on the last day of form application. The acting chief executive officer of NHIF, Samson Kuhora, pointed out that there were irregularities in the tender application process and affirmed their commitment to revise the application process for integrity and transparency. NHIF had issued the tender on May 30th, inviting bidders for the provision of insurance cover from 1st July 2023 to June 30th, 2024, with prospective bidders required to submit their bids on 14th June 2023. Its board, however, offered cancellation of tender number 35, 2022-2023, which was meant for the provision of coinsurance and facultative insurance service consortium for Group Personal Accident GPA and Work Injury Benefit Act WIBA for the civil servants and National Youth Service employees. According to Kuhora, The cancellation follows the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, which makes it illegal to make changes to a tender document without attaching an addendum. The bidder, however, questioned the last-minute cancellation of tenders and promised to challenge the issue in court, claiming that the fund board could have communicated prior to the publics. Reports have, however, revealed that NHIF has faced financial challenge caused by poor economic contributions, which has made it difficult for members to make voluntary contribution to the fund. Zena Odhiambo, KUTV.
Right, the 10th edition of the AFMA's Food Expo kick off today in Nairobi and will run until June 17th. The expo aims to boost East Africa capacity to provide safe food while enhancing trade opportunities. Several players in the industry were at the summit. Attendees had a chance to discover and learn the latest ideas, solutions, and technologies that are expected to boost capacity to provide safe food. KUTV's Yvonne Kemuma spent better part of her day at the expo and filed the following report.
The 10th edition of the AFMA's Food Expo has commenced today and is expected to run until the 17th of June. The AFMA's Food Expo was first held in 2015 and currently stands as the longest running food, beverage and milling industry trade show in East Africa. During the summit, attendees had a chance to discover and learn the latest ideas, solutions and technologies that are expected to boost East Africa's capacity to provide safe food to its growing population, while enabling the region to trade better within itself and its regional markets.
So addition of such nutrients are actually life-saving to meals, and we actually target so much because the main focus or the main meal that people eat in Africa is ugali. So we went for the most available or the readily available food, which is ugali.
Players in the industry in attendance included Suncrew Project Healthy Children, a global leader in micronutrient fortification, fighting malnutrition by providing technological solutions that add essential nutrients into the food that most people are able to purchase and consume. Sylvia Moses from Packaging Industries Limited encouraged more exhibitions, stating the value of the same in the food industry for manufacturers and consumers alike.
We are also very considerate about the environment, so our plastics are we also have the sustainability agenda behind that is behind our minds, that is a leading force to us creating enabling packaging solutions.
The AFMA's Food Expo was co-located with the Africa Food Safety Summit. The conference builds the capacity of the food and agriculture industry stakeholders to enhance food safety, quality and food systems in Africa. Yvonne Kemua, KUTV.
The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has announced that the maximum retail petroleum price for super petrol and diesel are set to decrease by 0.61 per litre and 1.21 per litre respectively. I beg your pardon. The price for kerosene, however, is set to increase by 0.35 per litre. The changes in the price are as a result of changes in import cost, which recorded a decrease of 1.09% for super petrol and 0.83 decrease for kerosene. The import price for diesel increased by 0.84% per cubic meter. These changes in the retail price will be effective as of today, 15th June to 14th July 2023. Now it's time to get the latest in the world of sports. Team Kenya continued with their dominance in the ongoing Billie Jean Cup after registering an empathetic 3-win against Namibia at the Nairobi club on match day 4. Angela Okutoi continued with her good run in the competition by defeating Namibia's Teron Linik in both sets by scoreline of 6-0 and 6-1. Cynthia Wanjala thrashed Lisa Leah of Namibia by 6-4 and 6-2 in a match 2 of the competition. Kenya duo of Asumwa Roslinda and Mwaha Nanjala completed Kenya's perfect score for the day by beating Joanavia Bezonut and Lendry Nabia by a scoreline of 6-3 and 6-1. The Team Kenya has now recorded their 4th win in a row since the tournament kick-off on Monday. Now let's switch gears to Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. The Africa Cup of Nations 2023 qualifiers are finally underway, with Egypt dominating Guinea in their own turf by 2-1 win. In the other matches played in the AFCON qualifiers, South Sudan lost 2-3 to Namibia as Guinea-Bissau registered 1-0 over Sao Tome. Kenya Harambee Stars, who were initially drawn in Group C, will miss out on the 2023 AFCON after Confederation of Africa Football announced that their qualification due to the suspension of the imposed ban on Kenya by the football governing body FIFA in November the year 2021. Right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. My name is AUMA Evans, and Sammy Okello has been our sign language interpreter tonight. Well, we wish you a blessed night and do enjoy the rest of your night. See you some other time.